let's hope that. Oh, goody, goody. That looks like we might have gone live. Always a positive feature in this world. I'm sorry if we are a few minutes late because my brain got distracted. There we are. Let's just sort this out. Always helpful. Let me come into here. Excellent. Yeah. There we are. And then I can pop this down and pay attention to what's going on, because that's always helpful, isn't it? Excellent. Good evening, Elizabeth. Hello, Sarah. Oh, she says, hello, Sheila. Good evening, Connie. Cool. Eeny, meeny, miny. I trust everyone is well. I have all the lighting on in my conservatory. I have a heater on and I'm wrapped up warm because it's still quite cold. Let's just pop these pieces and that bit of cloth and all of these pieces safely out of the way. We have a plan. It's always helpful to have a plan, I think. There we are. Oh dear. Cool. Right. Let's just pop these all safely somewhere. There we are. I'll tuck them all underneath there, just off screen. So I have an A4 canvas. Thank you so much, Sarah. Much appreciated. Good evening, Jill. I trust everyone is well. I hope that my friends who are in the USA, in southern states that really don't see snow very often, are all safe and enjoying the inclement weather. Here we are. So we have an A4 canvas. I've gone back to my roots today. For my mate. Good evening, Imra. Hello, Valerie. Welcome, welcome. I don't think I've seen you watching me before. So it's always a bit of a challenge because I have to come up with a different live project, different products, and then put it all together every week. And my mojo went walkabouts a bit over Christmas, so that's never helpful, is it? I've got a whole mountain more bits here. Let's just stick that over there. Stick those out of harm's way. Right, so we are going to be using the Stamperia Music Collection. We're using very little from the paper pad, some pieces from the ephemera pack and some wooden shapes because they're lovely, and we're going to just do a little bit of texture building because why not? Okay, so I've got a mould. The eagle-eyed will see that this is a mould from a different collection, but in reality it doesn't matter. Let me just get rid of that because it's a bit wobbly. So I want to add some stenciling, and canvases are wobbly and that does never help. So I'm just going to pop that onto there, into there, because I'm rather hoping it's just going to add a little bit of support for where I want to do this, add my stenciling and make it easier for me. So just build up the layer to where you need. And then I thought, so this is a very old Stamperia stencil. It comes from Dear Diary, I think, which is an old collection. And but I just thought, we've got a little bit like there we are. Let's just move that, shuffle that over just a little bit, and we might just give that, because we all know my stenciling ability is not great at not moving stuff around. We're just going to add a bit of stencil spray onto there. Any stencil spray that you have, just let it set off, and then we can pop this into here. There we are. So So pop that along the top of there, just off to the side, and that is fine. Pop that down, and we'll be moving this about a little bit because why not? And controversially, I have decided that I'm going to stencil with gesso primer paste. Now we consider this to be a primer because that's what it is, but it's thick and paste-like. And the modelling paste from Pentart often, well, it acts almost as a resist, which is fine, but maybe not quite what you want when you're colouring. There we are. So we're just going to add a layer of my gesso, and the plus side of the gesso being added is that it will act also, it will dry quite quickly. There we are. Let's just pop that into there, pop that there, make sure we've covered the area that we want. The Dear Diary won't show, that's absolutely fine. Pop that over there, don't need the memories, and then I can lift that off and we can move this just over here a little bit. I don't want the Dear Diary bit, I just want a little bit of extra detail down at that bottom part. See, I have the joy of at least sort of knowing where I'm going. It's always a positive, isn't it? So I'm using this because it's a nice thick paste, which is always an advantage. So you get a nice image when you use it, but it also means that it will dry quite quickly, but it will also absorb, because that's what happens. Right, now we've got far too many two things in our hands. Let's just pop that down there. Pop that, which has done its job, down there. Pop that into the wash, and let's just grab a baby wipe, she says, to give this a little bit of a clean. And I'm going to work on the black, but I'm going to clean on here. So let me just give this a little bit of a wipe, get rid of that paste, and hopefully not clog it up. I did get the music circular stencil, but can I find what I've done with it? No. So I've just hunt through, and text works for anything. You can't read what it says, so that doesn't matter. And I'm just thinking that it will work quite nicely. There we are. Let's just get rid of that, and then we can see how much we've got left. And hopefully you can see it's a well abused stencil because it's got grey paint on it from a previous project, but hey ho, there we are. Let's get the worst of that off there, give that a little clean, pop that on the floor. We've got sticky fingers already. Oh, and we'll pop that there and we'll grab a great plastic mat for painting on, because why not? There we are. That's heat proof, she says. Oh yeah, don't throw it off away on the floor. There we are. So that is, and now I can safely lid that. And I've also used that to prime my some resin pieces, because it really wouldn't be a project without me. So I've got the word love, that dear will disappear, and some nice background texture added with the stencil. Good evening, Margaret. Welcome. Good evening, Elizabeth. Thank you. Hello, Barbara. I trust you're well. Welcome, Juliana. So that's good. So we're just going to give this a little bit of a dry. Whilst we can. It won't take very long, just the joy of it being gesso rather than modelling paste. So to be fair, the Pentart modelling paste does dry quite quickly. we'll just get that there. So I trust that everyone is well, that we're enjoying well, that we're not struggling too much with the weather. Britain's got another named storm, Irwin, which I think is a Welsh name, so I apologise if it's not, but I think Irwin is a Welsh name. And set to hit fairly soon, which again won't help matters, but hey ho. Might cause some disruption for Friday night for me, but hopefully not. Just give this a little bit of a dry. I don't see where I got some glitter from, but hey ho. It's not going to matter too much actually. Must have come off the back of the stencil. So I can see that my gesso is going matte, and then as I take the heat away from it, it becomes shiny again because I've got a depth of gesso here, and that's the joy of using the primer paste, is that it will work very nicely as a texture paste, particularly if you don't necessarily want it to stay pure white long term, whereas the modelling paste absolutely acts as a resist. The gesso you can easily paint over. So that's the rationale for the choice of of this as a medium for tonight. I want to get the background done so that it can properly dry, because it's really difficult to glue stuff onto a wet background, surprisingly, because it doesn't help the glue grab. Yeah. So those of you that were watching first thing will know that I have centered my main composition approximately a third of the way up and across this area. So some of this will be visible or some of it won't. And we're just going to build some extra detail into here before we do too much more. But as I say, I do definitely want to get the colour onto this up front so that I can get it properly dry before we add lots of other things into the mix. Right, so I have a stamp which is a text stamp. So I happen to know that there is a text stamp in the new Masquerade collection. So if you haven't got the exact one I've got, don't stress, we're using bits of it. This is a red rubber one, but the ones that are there will work just as well. Okay, so that's going to be a bit of a pain because it's a bit swampy, bit bumpy, but that's fine. I just want a little bit of detail adding into here along the way, and it doesn't have to be entirely precise. This is intentionally an archival ink. Okay, there we are. I just want it to add a little bit more detail in to the piece. So anything will work for this, any form of text or things. And now I need to give that a little bit of a clean, because I can see that I've picked up some of the still damp primer paste there, and if I don't get it off there, it's going to destroy that stamp, and I don't really want that stamp destroyed, because why would I? So let's just give this another bit of a blast dry, because I can still see that this is a bit weight for me adding the next layers onto, and it will also help heat set that stamp. Yeah, so we've just added, so we've moved that out the way. So you can see that I've got, there we are, if I pop that over there, I've got the word love, I've got some text stamping over it, and we're just going to build up layers of detail, each layer adding a visual texture texture, even if it's not actually adding physical texture. But I do now need this to be dry. Before I spray with water. I want it dry before I spray it with water. And the simple answer is I want the paste to be dry so that I can add colour but have the colour move. And clearly if I don't have my paste dry and I have water to it, it's all going to run a little bit, which will be a look, but not quite the one I'm aiming for. Yeah. Hopefully. It's still a bit tacky. Let's go for it. Let's go for it, ladies. Why not? So, I don't spray the computer. So a goodly measure of water onto there, because that's what I want. And because we're going to use a nice big round brush, because that will hold lots of water. And I have the Patina Blue Antiquing Gel. And I'm going to start here. Partly because that's going to be thinned down. There we are. And because I can then control the colour and let it move a little bit. There we are. So some of that isn't running particularly well. So let's just add this and let it run and pick up that texture. Don't want it all blue. There we are. But I don't want it all white either. There we are. And I've got a bit of a hard blob there that will be envisioned. So let me just take that out, soften those colours out a little bit, let it run over. There we are. So I'm just adding a layer of colour. And the blue is in the collection. So that's why I've picked that. And I'm just going to add in a little bit of the brown. Okay, so I'm using my antiquing gels here just to add in some extra detail. And I'll get sort of some murkiness where I'm blending my colours, and that's absolutely fine. It will soften down. There we are. We'll pop that over there. And we're just going to give that a little bit of a soften through. There we are. It's just going to add some softness in. Okay. So that's the joy. You could use any, you could use the Lasur, any of the Lasurs will work instead. You could use diluted down paints. You could use the Pentacolor Media Mist. You're just wanting something that's fluid so you can merge it easily and you don't have a harsh colour, and so it blends easily. Yes, Elizabeth, these are antiquing gels that I am using instead of for antiquing as paints, because she can. And once they are dry, they will be permanent. But now you can see why I wanted to get that bit done before I did anything else, because it just needs to sit and dry. And there's a lot of water on that, and I might end up having to heat dry it later on. And I apologise for the fireworks going off. I have no idea why we've got fireworks going off. I'm assuming it must be someone's birthday local to me. But there we are. So let's just give that a little bit. There we are. So that can go there. So we have some pieces from the music mould. So let's just have a little play with these, and we're going to do these. So these have been cast with white resin, white rapid resin. Any resin would do. Jesmonite would work just as well for this. And then I have, because it was resin, I have primed it with the primer paste, surprisingly, because that was what was on my desk. So there we are. So let's just give these, some of these, an undercoat of the ivory. So this is a chalky paint, so it is a good paint for adhering to slick surfaces. But as I say, I have already primed this, so it's less of an issue. And we've got music and song, so that seems to me to be an entirely appropriate thing for a make that I've titled Harmony. And for those of you that might be in Europe and who might be celebrating a special day today, I gather certainly from my Polish friends that it might be Grandparents' Day. I think it's grandparents rather than Grandmother's Day, but it might be Grandmother's Day. So I wish, if you're celebrating that you have a lovely time. Let's just get that over there. And we've got a little hymn book here with some text on it. So let's just give this a little bit of a cover. There we are. So that will work there. And, oh, that's where it is. Excellent. Okay. Let's just give that brush. So I have... I know typically when you think about music, we have black, but I felt that black was a bit too dark for this project. And so I am using light brown because that's the brown I had lurking, but that's also okay. So let's just find a paintbrush to paint in our little piano, because they're wood. There we are. And then we'll add some ivory when this brown layer is dry. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to add our little wood to here. Hello, Vasilis. Welcome, my darling. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's much appreciated. Vasilis, I think, well, I know, is going to be live in Ellen J. Goods on her page this evening using Pentart. So if you don't follow her, you might like to go and see if you can find her page. She is a Pentart supplier in the US, so that will work. I think that's fair to say. But he'll be demonstrating a technique this evening on her page, which will be lovely, I'm sure. He's a wealth of Pentart knowledge. I will be colouring in some of that, picking out the details on this later on. There we are. Let's just do this. I could have gone for a black ebony because quite a lot of concert pianos are black, of course, aren't they? But the reality of life is actually there isn't the imagery in the paper pad is definitely more browns than blacks. There we are. We might have to take a little speedy dryer to this at some point, but that's okay. It's inevitable, I think, when we're painting these. But there is purpose to the process, because mixed media is about layering. It's about adding your details. It's about building a nice, effective composition. It's about mixing up your products, but not mixing up your products without purpose. So there we are. So we'll just plod our way through here. We don't need to be rushing at it like a bull in a china shop. Crafting's meant to be pleasure. You should be enjoying the process. There we are. This will be good. I'm going to end up with mucky, sticky fingers, aren't I? Because it's inevitable. Because when you've got a piece that's as small as this, it's not going to be helpful. And I must remember that I need to speak to Sylvie, who is the DT coordinator, because StreamYard's going to lose access to the page, which probably means that there's a subscription due to be paid. So there we are. We'll get that sorted, probably in the morning. There we are. So these are quite flat, small elements. So for me, this is about building layers and details. Let's pop that into there. And just bit by bit, there's not much texture on these pieces, but they will add just a little something to the finished piece at the end of the live. Thank you, Elizabeth. Much appreciated. It's always good to learn a different use of products, isn't it? You know, I use them in a certain way. Yes, I have learnt masses from Vasilis, but I definitely nowadays, my projects have their own style. Well, they've had their own style for a long time, but I don't always use the products in the same way as the Vasilis does. And but there's always an enlightenment. I've no idea what he's intending using this evening, but I do know that he is intending doing a live, which is good. Vasilis, if it's allowed, because you might know better than me, you could put the link to L&J Goods' page up, maybe. If not, then I'll try and find it and I'll put it on my page later on. Try not to. But obviously, if you think Pantart will be upset at us doing that, then don't, because I really wouldn't want to upset anyone, because life is too short to upset people. Yeah, we need to be kind to each other. There we are. Pop that into there. So we're getting there. And this is a diddly tiddly treble clef. Let's get into the little nooks and the crannies. These are all these little components that you know I use so often on my makes. I haven't got so many today, to be fair. I haven't got so many. We've got some. There we are. And we'll have a little bit of a dry in a minute, because I can see that I'm going to need a little bit of a dry. So I'm working on a silicone mat, which is cool because that means that I can move this out of the way when I stop painting and wipe everything up really easily. You could just as easily be using a cake decorating mat. That would work. But I do recommend a silicone surface because it's wipeable and that makes it easy to use. You could, of course, choose to use paper and throw that away, but that's maybe not quite so environmentally friendly as a silicone mat, and wipe away rather than putting stuff in the bin. because paint, even once it's dry, can't go onto recycled paper, so then that has to go in into landfill or be incinerated, so definitely not uber friendly. There we are. So let's just carry on with these pieces. Normally I put out far more paint than I need, and today we might not be quite so wasteful. That'll be a change, won't it? We'll need a little bit more, but there we are. So we're going to add lots of layering while that background paper is quietly canvas is quietly drying. She was diagnosed 4 years ago, Sarah, with dementia. And I kept that very well hidden. I suspect the family have announced it now because it's got to the stage where it can't easily be covered. But all we can do is wish her and her family well and hope that she can enjoy her life. There we are. So that's just, I think I am going to need just a little smidgen of that. Okie dokie, thank you, Vasilis. It's much appreciated. If you pop that in there, hopefully anyone who doesn't know the group can see the name, and then they can just pop it into their search engine on Facebook, and they'll find the group. It's you might need to ask to join it. I'm not too sure if it's a public group or not. I was asked if I wanted to join it by Lynn, which is how I found it. So there we are. Cool. So let's just lid that. Pop the lid on the correct way round. It would always help, won't it? Let's just remove that from there. And then we can do, see that big slab really doesn't look very attractive right like that, does it? But it will not look like that long term. I can't assure you, everyone. So let's just give these so I used to be able to play the piano, recorders. I think every English child who was brought up in the 60s and 70s could play the recorder and also the cello. So thankfully I can read music. But I wouldn't like to hazard a guess whether this is actually real music or not. So let's just give this all a goodly flitz and get it dry. And then I'm conscious I need to add a little bit more cream onto the piano. There we are. If we can get most of this dry, then that would be helpful as we start to build layers and colours. And I tend to, as you know, paint my coastal resins independently of my project. Depends very much on what I'm doing and what I'm creating. So if I am creating a very mixed media assemblage piece, then I might paint them put them all in place and then paint it all over. But when I'm wanting individual pieces to have specific colour in specific places, you will definitely always see me doing this like this. So let me just pick up an uber tiny brush. There we are, there's an uber tiny brush and some more of this ivory paint. There we are, and then we can pop into here, and the black keys I will add in with Posca pen, probably after the live, because if you try adding Posca pen into stuff that isn't completely dry, all that will happen is you block your Posca pen. And they are not particularly cheap to use for one project. Block it up and then have to start again. There we are. So there's our keys for our piano, but we will, as I say, I will add some more. And let's just have this music back in ivory, and we'll give these another bit of a blast. And then we're going to varnish them to help protect the paint when we distress it, because that's what we're going to be doing. There we are. So there is our music on there. I can see where I've made a boo-boo of the brown. So let me just sort that out now with that. There we are. Cool. That can go in there. Put that there. There we are. So let's just give that a clean and a little twiddle to protect those brushes, rather than leaving my fine paint brushes in a puddle of water where they will just get distorted and destroyed. There it is. So let's just give this another bit of a dry. Is everyone okay? Put water on there, so let's just wipe that off. So there's lots of detail in some of these molds that's really not very obvious at the moment. And I'm going to be using some distressing techniques on these to help bring out the different colours. And that's fine. So I have a decor varnish in matte because I don't particularly want a shiny surface because paper isn't shiny. So we're just going to give this a wee coat of varnish, and it's important that you make sure that you've added your varnish everywhere, because otherwise you won't be able to wipe back your pieces, and you don't want, as I've just done in there, great big globs of it. But that's fine, because we can then spread this out gently over the piece, take it out of all of the nooks and the crannies. Don't want those gummed up, because as I say, I'm wanting to use my distressing products to help identify all of the details that are on this mould. It's quite a nice mould. I ummed and ahed about whether I needed it because I wasn't so sure, but it was this piece, this big sheet. And you could be casting this with jasmonite. It's a flat piece. I think it would pick up the details reasonably well and work. And you definitely can use the jasmonite in the plastic moulds. So that's okay. So let's just pop that over there. Let's just continue to do this. So it's, you know, if you want a piece to have longevity, then this makes a lot of sense. You often see me skip it. To be fair, I'm not always good at adding the varnish. But the detail on this means I might need to rub reasonably firmly, and I don't want to take the pale ivory off the top of the piece. Definitely want it to stay stuck. So the varnish will just help you do that, and it just means that you've got far more control of what you want to lift off. It's far easier to take more off when you've got the layer of varnish that's dried and protecting everything. There we are. Okay. Oh yeah, let's take that off. Nice soft brush so you don't end up with ridiculous numbers of brush marks. Won't matter really if we do, but it will make life easier for you if you don't. There we are. If you wanted shiny, you could choose the glossy varnish. This is a water-based varnish, so it's easy enough to clean my brushes. You can just wash out in water quite happily, so it doesn't matter that I've actually got quite a nice varnish. You don't want to be leaving big globs though, because that will show. But these layers just add to the overall longevity of your pieces. I've got projects that I've had made now for the best part of 8 years that are still as good, and if I end up having to give them a quick flick with the duster to clean them, it really isn't a problem, because I know that they've been made with all the layers and the details in place. There we are. Let's just take off the excess there. And I was deliberately leaving that piano till the end. We'll just stick a bit of that on there while we try and get this into here. Some of these pieces are not going to end up distressed because there's no additional detailing in them. But where there is, it's quite nice to have. So let's just give this a coat, get this into all of the nooks and the crannies. There we are. I'm not shivering too much there, so that's okay. We've clearly got that dry enough, which is good. There we are. And if you're a paranoid sort of person, then you can always add a layer of varnish, let it dry, and then add a second layer of varnish, just in case you missed areas the first time round. Okay. So I'll just pop that over there. Let's just give that mess a little wipe off my silicone mat. It will lift. There we are. We'll pop that over there so we're not working in a complete mess. Pop that over there. Let's just give this a little blast. My background is continuing to dry quite nicely over there. So has everyone gone off to sleep? There's no comments coming through, or has Facebook frozen? Because that's equally been happening quite a lot recently. Oh, she goes, I don't want those sticking to each other. There we are. Hi Denise, welcome my darling. Thank you for joining. I haven't seen you pop in. I know it's possibly a little while ago. Good evening, Mary. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's really important that we support each other as fellow creatives. We share what we do. Hopefully people either like the project, enjoy the company, or learn something about the product, or all of the above, because that's really the name of the game, is that we can learn and see things done, and maybe use things in a slightly different way to others. Thank you, Elizabeth. Much appreciated. There we are. I know it's not always possible for everyone to watch a whole live all the way through. You know, we all have busy lives. We all have stuff that we need to do. And I'm debating changing my mind. I think I will change my mind, because that's a female prerogative, isn't it? It is a good. There we are. No, sitting unpicking filters while watching. What are you unpicking, Jill? Is that a piece of patchwork that has not joined very nicely? Just get these properly dry before I go and pick up the next bit. There we are. And I can reach exactly what I want for those two pieces if I just step 3 steps to my right. Oh, She's there trying to trip over everything, because why not? So, okay. So we've got some bits here. That one's going that way. That one's going that way. So, the brown antiquing gel that I used earlier, very diluted with water. I've just got a mop brush here. Okay, so I'm just going to mop brush this. In fact, I'm not going to mop brush that. I will take that. I'm just going to add the brown antiquing gel over here. I will come back to the mop brush in a minute. There we are. Over here. And you think, got all of that detail. You've made all of that. You've got a nice pretty mix. Was now all white. It's now all brown. Yeah. Well, why not? Why not indeed? So let's just take a damp baby wipe and just let's lift this off. There we are. So the antiquing gels will wipe back whilst they're white. So yeah, ancient music would definitely be on a, not on a pristine white piece of paper, wouldn't it? Yeah. Let's just add a bit more of that onto there, and then we can wipe back what we want. So this is just going to do that. And it's quite blobby in some of these areas. So I'm just going to spread it out a little bit more. It's quite difficult to take it all out once you've slathered it on in quite the way that I did, but that's absolutely fine. And now we can take off some more of this. It will soften down. There we are. And when you're taking off your antiquing paints, you just need to make sure that you're not just all wiping with the same dirty bit of cloth, because otherwise you won't get more off. You'll just spread it back on. There we are. So now we've got a bit more detail into there, and it's softened down quite a lot. There we are. So let's just do the other side of that. There we are. So once the antiquing gels are dry, they don't shift. So you just need to be aware of that when you're working with it. So we've used the antiquing gels as a spray. You can use them as a wood stain if that's what you want to do with them, because they are semi-transparent, and you can antique as their name suggests with them, which is also always a good move, isn't it? There we are. So let's just cover that in. And the golden rule is cover everything. See areas that aren't covered. Cover everything. Get into all of the nooks and the crannies, because if you don't, you will regret it. And we can wipe back the worst of it. And we're going to take our fluffy brush and spread it out a bit more so that we've not got great big clumps. I might treat myself to a clean cloth, because that's now getting a little bit beyond the pale. There we are. And I can see an area that I've missed. There we are. So we'll pop that in. So it just works. Yeah, we can just take back. It just helps you see what you've got. There we are. But we've now got a piece that at least you can see all of that detail on. And you can stop at any point you want with this. So if you don't want it back quite so far, don't take it back quite so far. So on this little piece, even on this little piece, which I think is a hymn book or a music book, there is detail. So let's just wipe it back. Might be more difficult on this because it's not very deeply etched, but there is detail in it. There we are. I might pop a bit more onto there because I think we've wiped it back just a little too firmly. That's fine. Let's just dab it off. There we are. Got a little bit of detail onto there. Okay. I'm going to pop that into there. So just into the keys and the book. We'll take that off. Let's just pop that out of harm's way. And I'm going to pop that mop brush into there and that one into there. Okay. I'll pick up another brush. Does it matter which brush I use? Probably not. Probably not. There we are. That will work. Okay. No, that's just a wee bit too big. So let's just pick that one up. So I'm going to go for my antiquing gel in the patina blue. And why am I choosing this? Well, it's because it's colour. The colours are on the piece globally. So that's why I'm choosing to use. I might struggle to get this all off, but that's okay. We might end up having to go back over the brown. That's also okay because you can layer these. So it might be that I need to pop the brown back into the keys and the book, but that's okay. We can do that. There we are. Let's just wipe that off. Yeah, we'll put some of that. There we are. So that's sitting in there quite nicely. Just added just a little bit extra detail into my piano. Doesn't look quite as stark and flat and uninteresting as it was. I hummed and hawed about doing these in the blue, but actually I'm going to do them in gold. If I can open the gold. No, we can't open the gold, so we'll go for the green. So this is the patina green. Okay. That'll be a mix, but that's okay. And these are all colours that are in those papers, which is why I've chosen them. Let's just help, just add a little extra layer onto that. Won't be quite as flat. There we are. It just is. You know, these products just make life easy for adding the different effects. There we are. So let's just wipe that back off the surface. And now you can see that that is a little bit more dimensional. Pop that into there. I'm just going to, it's a bit blobby. Just going to soften that a little bit. There we are. And that can go into there. So we've now used our antiquing gels to add texture and colour to our pieces in a very simple way. And we protected them by varnishing them to start with, which is also always good practice. So let's just pop these off over here. Let's pop that up there for the moment. Let's tuck these out of harm's way. And let me just swap and get rid of my mucky mat onto the floor and swap to a cleaner piece where you can see better what we're going to do, because we're going to have a little blast dry of things and then start building our composition. There we are. So here is our background piece. So let's just give this a wee bit more of a blast. There's still some areas here that are too wet for me to glue onto. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Connie. And there we are. You just take care, Elizabeth. I know you go off and support another live, don't you, when you disappear from these on a Tuesday. There are 2 more lives of Pentacolor this week, one tomorrow and one on Thursday. The Thursday one is using glass paints, but the lady who's doing that does some amazing pieces. And I think it is because I've seen her Facebook post where she was asking people to choose the imagery. It was going to be a Year of the Dragon piece. Maybe for tomorrow, I can't remember, to be whatever it is. Thank you, Vasilis. That is high praise indeed. I like this very much. And all I've done is use my primer paste for the background because it colours, and then really good spritz of water, and then use my antiquing gels for the colour in the patina blue and the brown. And you just get this so to the point where we can actually start to build things up. Get rid of the shininess, hopefully life will be manageable. So we've got a little bit of stamping in the background, we've got our texture, we've got our colour, all layered very nicely together. And now we're going to take some of these pieces, and I really haven't used much from my scrapbooking paper. This comes from the cover piece of my 12 by 12 paper pad, and I've literally just chopped the strips that are down each side off. I need oh, there it is, and then cut them up. Okay, so let's just give a little bit of an edge onto these. So this is about 1 1/4 inches wide, something like that. Some of this is going to get covered up, so but I do quite like to just edge the pieces, and I'm using my permanent archival ink pad for doing this, because it just it's not going to move then when I add the blues and mediums. Not that I'm actually intending adding much more on the top of this. And as you can see, it is most of the width of here intentionally. There we are. So we're going to build this up, and we're going to it's a beautiful, beautiful colour. I like it. I've mixed up the blues, the greens. There we are. So all I'm doing is adding just a little bit. It wouldn't matter so much for this project if I ended up with a bit of white, because actually, to be fair, I have still got some white surfaces on my canvas, so it wouldn't be completely disastrous. Okay, so that will, I think, work just nicely there. So let's just, because we can, I've got some express glue here. Yeah, that's typical, isn't it? There we are. You check it before you go live, and then it blocks. There we are. Let's just unblock it, that, and then we can start to build our composition. Okay. So fortunately, I sort of have a plan. So that piece is going to go on there. Now I know that I have some ephemera pieces here. Okay. So let's just start to build these. And by not having it tacked down all over, I will be able to tuck under. It was that piece. So this is a piece just literally from the cover where you get the little icons. And I know that I've got it as a mess at the moment, but that's fine. I'm just going to tuck that into there. So my little Baroque lady with the music is underneath there. So let me just pop that into there. Remember, I said I would be able to get rid of the word I didn't want. That doesn't matter. So this is an ephemera piece. So I could just do that. Let's just pop that into there, and that's going to go onto there. Okay. Don't need her. I'll just pop that like so. Okay. Right, let's just pick. Hello from our lovely lady visitor from Greece. I'm sorry, I don't understand your alphabet. Maybe Vasilis could tell me if he's still here, because I know he might be a bit busy. What your name is? That would be lovely. There we are. And let's just pop this piece onto here. There. Okay. So I know that I want my music to be here, poking in and out. So I'm going to pop this piece over here. And I might, because I can't see any detail there, just add a little smidgen more stamping over there. There we are. So that piece can sit there. There we are. 15 is my own. Thank you. I am Gill. I'm one of Pentacolor's creative team. I've been with them, I think, 5 years now, so quite a long time. There we are. And we'll pop that into there. I don't want to cover up the word love, and I don't want everything to be all at the same angle, if that makes sense. Where is my heavy body gel? There we are. Oh, maybe we'll get rid of that bit. Let's just lift up a palette knife, because it's going to be easier to pop that onto here. And we're going to be partially covering this because that's what we do. I'm building layers and detail and structure as I go. There we are. We can pop that onto there. Now I happen to know that I have the wooden harp. It's a beautiful musical instrument, and I'm going to use my gel medium, and I'm going to have my heart sitting over the music, and it will grab. And then I have my wonderful piano, but I've got a gap in here, so I'm going to add this piece, which is another piece of ephemera. I don't want to see the blue through here at this point of time. Hello Debbie, welcome my darling. So I'm just going to pop this piece, so tuck it underneath there. We're only going to see a little snippet of it. Okay, let's just pop that there so we can read the word love, and we can add a thin layer of that. And we want our piano upright, because that's what we have, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to add some musical instruments and move that over just slightly. Okay, so we're going to tuck those, and again that'll need to be down because I need to be able to see I want the word love to be visible. So let's just tuck that over, clear off that sloppy mess, and we're going to tuck that there. And a mandolin or Madeline or lute, whatever it might be, we're going to tuck into here. Okay. Right. Yuck. Let me just clean my mitts of that piece. Okay. So I'm gonna pop, I think. This isn't quite how I originally had it, but that's okay. That's just what happens when I am creating. So we've got a disconnect here that I don't particularly like, and that's okay. That's not a problem. We're gonna pop. I think we're gonna pop our little piece. We might not. I think we might just see where we're going to go with that. As I say, we've not got things in quite the same places that we had before, but that's okay. Let's just fill that gap. There we are. Pop that into there. Okay. And we don't have to use it if we don't want to. So we have a lovely treble clef that I'm going to pop onto there. Tucked underneath there, popped out from there. We're going to pop our music notes on there. And then we have some ephemera pieces. Let me see if I can pick the back off this, because musical instruments make music. Oh, well, that's clever, isn't it? Right, so we'll not be picking off the bits off that. We'll just add some glue onto there, and we're going to add our little music notes onto here. I'm going to pop that piece onto there as if it's on the floor. Okay. And I don't want that on there because it's going to interfere with that, but we will, if I pop that there, that isn't going to hide that. And that piece can go here. So we've got our music coming out of the pages. Yeah. And I think we might have that piece lurking over there. So these literally are all of the pieces that I'm doing. I'm telling a story. I've got my music, I've got my love, I've got my extra pieces. I don't want to cover that. I'm going to link that piece together. There we are. So we're going to have another piece. So our music is wafting through the air, if that makes sense. I don't like that piece. We've got a little treble clef that we did. I'm going to pop that on top of that music note, just tucked over there. Okay. Do I want that piece that I did? I'm not convinced today I do want it. And sometimes you just have to accept that with the changing composition, it's not what's working. No, it's not working for me there, so we're not going to use it. We're not going to use it. Right, I have a little bit of cloth. Let's see if we can shred it. Oh, well, that's always a positive, isn't it? So we've got nice shredded. It's a little bit of linen. Might need to be a bit smaller. I have the word. No, that will work, won't it? There we are. So let's just shred this edge get rid of these edges. It's a bit bigger than I wanted over that end, so let's just do that. So this is literally just a piece of linen cloth, calico, plain cotton. There we are. We can pop that there, and then I'll pop that onto there, and I think that can go neatly onto there. I think I like it there. Or do I want it there? Actually, I think I'm going to pop it there. So let me just pop a little bit of glue onto the back of that and pop that there. And the reason I've chosen to put the cloth into there is because it's going to just give my word a little bit of a frame. It's never any problem to be late. Yeah, we all have busy lives. The lives are there to catch back up on. So there is never any right, there isn't necessarily a wrong. But by putting on that little bit of cloth, I've just got that, the harmony word they're working. And I just need to leave that then to dry. Okay. So what do we want to add? So currently all of these pieces just look a little bit haphazard, as if maybe I've just popped them on, which isn't, to be fair, not so far off what I have done. I think so. We're now going to just fiddle, because fiddling is good, isn't it? Yeah. So we've got another wooden shape there. I don't see the wooden shapes being used that often, to be fair. They tend to get a little bit ignored. There we are. I'll pop that into there. We've got a little flute. I don't think the accordion works, but that will work, and we'll link those nicely together. Yeah? Let's see if we need any more. We might not, but that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I do like that up there, so I'm going to pop it into there. Okay. So let's just have a little bit of a clear down. Pop that onto there, pop that onto there, put that there. Okay. I might just add a little bit of my ink just around the edges of my canvas. Might need to add a bit more when everything's set in place. Okay, it's just going to frame those edges, but at the moment I can't pick it up to give it a really good colour, because I'll move everything. But it's just going to help pull the eye in if I add just a little bit more colour around the edges. So we've got love and harmony, two words that I think go together. Work nicely for Grandmother's Day, work nicely for Valentine's Day. I just want to add a little bit of something extra, because why not? So let me just pop. Is that my fan brush? Excellent. So I'm just going to take some white acrylic paint. And add some gentle splatters in the white. Here we are. And then I am going to take my brown antiquing gel and a clean brush. Let's have that will have to do. Okay, we'll pop that there. And we'll give that a little spritz with some water, because it says it's an antiquing gel. As I say, I've used it for antiquing. We're just going to add a gentle splatter of brown. It is definitely possible to over egg this, so we'll endeavour not to over egg it. And of course you can't get splatters exactly where you want them. There we are. Thank you, Sarah. Much appreciated, my darling. So we've used wooden shapes because I don't see those being used very often. So I thought it would be good to use those. We've added my beloved moulds because we always have to have lots of moulds with the piece when I'm making something. Wouldn't be me without. We've used ephemera again because I think it's something that we don't necessarily always get to use. Then we've used our antiquing gels in the way that they're intended to antique. But we've also used them as a wash in the background instead of spray media. And then we've used them as a splatter on the surface to finish and pull all the layers together. So I hope that you've enjoyed my live tonight. I wish you well. I'm hoping, weather permitting, because the weather forecast for Friday isn't good, that I will be live on Crafting Together with All Brands on Friday. And we'll definitely be back for my Sunday live on Sunday at 3. So please stay safe with whatever you're up to. I look forward to seeing your crafty makes, and take care of yourselves. Bye.